What's up, everybody? In this video, we're going to be going over a video that I haven't covered yet on my channel, which is the self-powered oxygen machine, or the SPOM for short. These things are, such a crucial part of all of our colonies, generally speaking, and there's been so many variations that are posted online, famous ones like the Rodriguez, and all sorts of different types. And I wanted to kind of go over one that I've just recently made in the colony that I've been playing, and kind of explain some of the math to the people that may not be familiar with it, and give people the confidence to design their own on the fly, specifically new players, so that they actually understand how it works and how they can set it up to truly be a self-sufficient oxygen making mechanism. So this is the current design that I made for the colony that I'm using right now. And this one actually has some damage on it that I was going to fix for the video, but I've decided that, it's not really bothering anything other than the fact that this red bar is... Okay, that's a lie. It's kind of driving me nuts. I'm going to have to break in here at some point. But that, I think I got a bad packet in there earlier from, it was polluted water, or I don't know. Something went in there that shouldn't have been in there. Anyhow, but it's been working fine. This SPOM, or oxygen creator here, has been running for, I don't even know, 500, 600 cycles maybe. And I literally don't have to touch it. And it is disconnected from my grid and has been disconnected the entire time. So I see a lot of people that, and a lot of designs are fairly large. And I think that, it's important to note that you really don't need to make your system that big, right? So one electrolyzer emits, it's 800. Let me pause this so I can actually see the numbers on this. But one of these things, I believe, emits 888 grams, which basically is enough for almost 9 dupes to run off of one, right? So, put that into perspective. I have 9 dupes right now, and I'm running 2. And a lot of the bigger ones that we see all over the place, the designs on the internet, they're massive, right? And they've got pumps and they got all these things, but you really don't need this. I could run my colony probably off of 1. I mean, according to the numbers, I would be just shy of a full 9 dupes, but I'm sure that if I swap down to 1, it would be just fine. I think that one of the justifications for having them a little bit bigger and having more pumps is just to help balance out the hydrogen mixed with the oxygen as far as taking it out of your system, right? Because one pump can remove, I thought it was, so 500. So this is making about 1,000, right? So you've got 888 of the oxygen, and then 112 grams of the hydrogen. So, right, you put this together. So you're running about 1,000 here, and then one pump takes out 500. So basically 2 pumps equals 1,000, right? So in theory, you would need, let's say, 2 pumps per one. The problem being is that you're going to have, a lot more oxygen coming out than this, but we use these sensors to try to balance that out. Now, for the sensors, people use different numbers. I always just write 250 and then 500 on the top. It's just numbers that I remember easily. I literally just go 250 and then I double it for the top one, and it works fine for me. But basically what you can see here is we know that both of these are producing 112 grams of the hydrogen here. And so between the 2 of them, right, we've got 224. And so we know that one pump can do 500. So the one can handle those, right? And then this is doing 800. So you basically need 1 and a bit which is why why I'm doing two, sorry, for each of these. So in theory, let's say if you wanted to run one electrolyzer, maybe you would do 2 gas pumps on the bottom and 1 on the top would be more than sufficient. And then you would have enough oxygen being created for, like I said, almost 9 dupes. So you don't have to overbuild these things. The other thing that's worth noting is the temperature that this stuff comes out. And I believe it comes out at 70, higher if it's, I believe it's 70 degrees Celsius. And then I believe it's higher if the water temperature is higher. I don't know where I've seen that before, but I've seen it somewhere. So the water that I'm feeding it right now is 21 degrees, and that's coming right over from the side here, which is being cooled by my little cooling loop for my water, which I'll probably do a video on at some point too, because these are just great little essential builds that everybody needs to know. I've started putting together a bit of an industrial brick down here, but that'll be something else. I actually have a lot of videos on the go right now, but they've been taking so long to produce that I've wanted to get something out while we're waiting. So let's talk about the power perspective on this thing. So we know that these things, we're doing the 110 grams of, 112 of the hydrogen, and this hydrogen generator produces 800, and it requires 100. So we know that one generator, this thing is going to be producing just a little bit more hydrogen than one generator can handle. So I have 2 of these, so I'm running 2 generators, and then that would give us the excess of the 24, I believe we said earlier. And then that's fine. And the way that I have it set up is I just burn off the excess. And I mean, like, you could, you could use the extra power for something by all means. The other thing that's really important about this, is the having a smart battery, because we want to make sure that this system is turning off so that it's not, burning out. So basically what happens is this thing will stop running sometimes. And the reason that it's going to stop running, a big part of it, is that I'm producing more oxygen than I need. And I will start popping all the eardrums on my dupes. So in order to prevent that from happening, I've reduced a lot of my airlines. And because I used to have more spreading it all over the place. So what I've done is I've reduced them, and then I've actually put little Atmo sensors attached to the vents. And I basically say, I trigger them to 2000. And so that they basically close before they can get to a point that they over pop eardrums. And this allows me to maintain a pressure of oxygen in my immediate base under 2000 grams. So that way you don't have to worry about the pop eardrums. Because if you just let these things run, you will most likely be overpressuring or putting too much pressure, and you're going to have injuries. And the popped eardrums, I'm trying to remember what it does, but it gives, I think, a morale hit. Makes them not happy anyways. Their eardrums are popped, right? Nobody likes that. So that's an important thing. The other thing that you don't want to be doing with these systems is you don't want to be using air filters. All of your stuff should be done using an element sensor and a shutoff valve. So basically, you don't have to worry about balancing the pressure inside here perfectly. So like I said, I've got the 250 grams set on the bottom and the 500 on the top. But heaven forbid, it's not perfect and something comes out that shouldn't. It just gets routed properly. It just gets dumped, right? So it gets checked in here, and if it's hydrogen, it gets green lit and it goes through into the hydrogen powers. And then if it's not, this thing stays red, doesn't open this gate, and it just spits out the oxygen, right? Now, I don't really have any issues with that. It's always pretty much hydrogen, but it's good. You want to have kind of that fail-safe system, because it doesn't really cost you anything, right? What What am I paying? I'm paying 20 watts for this, which is a lot less than running a a gas filter. What do these things cost? These things are 120, right? So that's a lot. And I think actually that if you looked at the math here, let me think for a second. So if I crunch the numbers quickly, I'm trying to think here. So we've got 240 times 4, 5, 6 plus the 20, right? And then if we were to add this, this would put us at 1700 watt requirement. And of course, we've got 1600 coming off of these, and then the battery is full because this stuff doesn't run all the time, and neither does this pump, now that I think about it. So the only thing that is not technically self-sufficient on this is because it does require this pump to run, right? It requires water to come in. But I would guess that I could, and I may actually do this, I can hook this pump into this system and utilize this power so that my main base water supply is actually self-sufficient on this loop. And I think that it would sustain this just fine because the numbers are so close. And if you consider the fact that these things are not running constantly, the excess might be fine. It would be close, but I think it might be okay. And then that would truly, truly make this self-sufficient, and we'd get the added benefit of, feeding our base a free loop of water, basically for everything for free. So that would be really cool to do. So let's have a look at what we've got going on here. So when you build these things, there's a couple key things that you have to be aware of. And one of the first ones is that hydrogen rises and above the oxygen, right? And the big issue here is this one tile gap to this gas pump. So you need to keep like a one tile space opening. And that's super crucial because if you make this too big, now mind you, you could get away with it. You could drop everything down a little bit and, create a big cavity above. But you'll see that in most of the designs, a crucial element is that you want to have one tile leading in, right? Because this is so the hydrogen is really compressing into here, which is helping ensure that the oxygen doesn't mix into the hydrogen here. The other thing that is kind of important when you're dealing with power is you want to set this up with power lines that can run everything. So conductive wire is really important because you don't want to be using some sort of, heavy watt joining plate sticking out the side here. You do want to be managing temperature, because if you have a bunch of hot air and if you're feeding hot air in through your base, that's going to cause a problem. I like to put a lot of these little systems inside my main living area. And so my oxygen creation, my water cooling, my water cleaning, I put it all right inside. And the reason I do this is because I want people to not have to have Atmos suits and to be, running around to go and do work. I want this stuff close by so that people can just look after it, because this stuff is kind of essential to the functioning of my colony, right? If this stuff goes down, it's bad news for everybody. So that's why I do that in here. Now, if people might think, oh, well, what about the temperature issues? But there's really no temperature issues. If you design it properly, you shouldn't have any temperature issues with this stuff. You keep your water cool in your base, which is, just a no-brainer. You need to always have that. And then make sure you're using cold water elsewhere, and you will not have any problems with that moving forward. I also forgot when we were talking about the battery setup, when it comes to the automation, right, you want to, oh yes, I actually don't have automation on this. And that was because I'm burning off the excess. That's right. So generally speaking, a lot of people would suggest, using an automation wire to connect these to your battery. And then that way your battery is toggling and not wasting, right? Because I am technically wasting power here, but I don't care. As long as I don't have to look at this and worry about it and it just produces oxygen on its own, you know, I'm a happy guy. And that's exactly what this thing has been doing for me. But yeah, so you would automate this. You would put a little wire on it and you would trigger it to maybe something like, you know, 90, 70 or something like that, so that it's just, you know, not wasting anything coming off. Regarding automation inside this thing, you're going to use Atmos sensors, generally speaking, one on each side. So even if this system or design was bigger, if you were just doing the 2 oxygen pumps for the 1 hydrogen pump, you could, you know, just have 1 Atmos sensor. But generally speaking, you're going to have 1 for each side. And then these things, again, are just going to tell this one to start and stop. And then you have the one at the top here as well. Now, the doors are important just for access, right? So this is allowing us to create that gap that I was talking about for the hydrogen. But we use the doors so that, you know, heaven forbid you got to run in here like I may have to fix this freaking thing here. You know, your guys can walk through, and that solves that problem. So you're you know, solving 2 issues with the door here. And then underneath your electrolyzers, obviously you want the oxygen to be able to fall. So you're going to use a tile that allows the oxygen to fall down. So it's all pretty straightforward. I think that, you know, I always scratch my head when I see people with these huge oxygen systems, because I think that a lot of people don't realize that you don't need to have huge systems to support your dupes. These things make so much oxygen. They really do. Now, if we're going to look at the plumbing quickly, plumbing, what you can see here is my cooling. So I'm using radiant pipes inside the container. So I'm trying to cool, you know, this entire thing and provide it with cool water as well. And then this water is coming from my cleaning system over here. And this cleaning system is, you know, very straightforward, using liquid reservoirs in a container full of chlorine. And chlorine gas will disinfect water if they're in the reservoirs. So you basically just seal that out. And if you look at my tanks here, like this thing is just, you know, this is a cesspool of food poisoning. But then as it comes in here, you'll see that, you know, this is another thing that isn't, you know, requiring anything. It's just kind of does its own work. There's no nothing required, you know, to keep this running. It's very self-sufficient. But anyways, if we had a look at which one is coming in first, so we see that it's coming out of the tank and then it goes into this one first. And if we click on this, we'll see that we've got food poisoning. And then if we click on the next one, you'll see that it's even lower. And then if you click on the final one, you'll see that there's no food poisoning left. So all the water that is coming out of here is food poisoning free. So that's great. I'm trying to think if there's anything else to talk about with this, but I think that I've pretty much covered it all. We've discussed the power. We've discussed the water, the cooling. We've discussed the air. So yeah, I've got 2 lines running. You can actually distribute these in any which way that you want. It's just a matter, like you can see this side is backed up, and then this side I have one that's going directly to my Atmos suits here to try to keep these things up and running. And then I have another vent off at the end here with the Atmos sensor. But you could redistribute them. I mean, you could put, you know, 1 line off of each if that made you feel better, or however you want to distribute it. There's no big deal with that. And then regarding building materials, it's not something you have to worry about because, you know, assuming this thing is maintained at a decent temperature, you can pretty much use whatever you want. I've got copper pumps, copper electrolyzers. Everything is copper for the most part. Could you use mesh tile under the doors? Maybe. The door would still be creating the block for the hydrogen, so I'm thinking you could get away with that if you wanted to, but having these tiles here, I think it's just a safer bet so that you don't have to worry about any mixing. So that's good. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Don't be scared to design these things on your own, and just know that, they don't need to be as big as you think they do. Actually, now that I think about it, if it was bigger, now, of course, you would be using a lot more water. But because we're so close with the power requirements, if it was a little bit bigger, that might give you the little bit of extra power you needed to safely add this pump. But like I said, I still think that I could add the pump on this. I know the math is a little bit shy, but I think that I could compensate with the fact that it's not running all the time. At the beginning, maybe that would be a problem, but I think that once your base is full of oxygen, you would definitely have the wiggle room to do that. Why do I have carbon dioxide? This corner here is always a bit of a problem for me. I have these little buffer sensors here. When it gets too bad, they clean them up whenever there's a problem. But I guess I'll have to do something about that. Anyhow, that's it for me. Thank you guys so much for watching. I got a bunch of videos that I'm working on right now, but they're just taking a lot longer than I had expected. But if you have any questions, feel free to let me know, and be confident. Design your own SPOM machines, and you got this.